Confidential file. Case number 117. My patient's secret friend. Fictional name of the patient, Bella. Date 6 years. Date of first session, August 4, 2022. Responsible professional, Dr. AC. Registration withheld due to confidentiality. Report started at 6:42 p.m., 3 months after the end of the treatment. During my career as a child psychologist, I've handled dozens of cases involving imaginary friends. Usually they're harmless creations, born from loneliness, creativity, or temporary emotional needs. But Bella's case was different. From the very beginning, something felt wrong, something I couldn't quite name. But that made the room feel heavy every time she walked in. Her mother, Camila, came to me with an expression of exhaustion and guilt in her eyes. She said her daughter was acting strange, talking to someone no one could see, stopping mid-sentence as if listening to responses. And most unsettling of all, she made physical space for the invisible presence. She left room in her bed, set extra utensils, closed the door so he wouldn't be bothered by the noise. She called this presence Natan, but she never referred to him as an imaginary friend. To Bella, he was real. He had always been real. And slowly we began to realize she wasn't the only one who could feel his presence. Report, sessions number 1 to number 3. Bella arrived at the office with slumped shoulders, sunken eyes, and a look that shifted between apathy and constant vigilance. Children usually feel uneasy in a clinical setting. That's normal. But with Bella, it wasn't fear. It was as if she was never really alone. As if she was always accompanied. In the first session, we followed a playful approach. I asked her to draw her house, her family, and whoever else lived with her. She grabbed the crayons without hesitation. She drew her mom, herself, and a distorted figure in the bottom corner of the page. Tall, thin, faceless, with long arms and slender fingers stretching all the way to the ceiling. "That's Natan," she said without looking up from the paper. "He doesn't like being too close to mommy, only to me." I asked what he said to her. Things I'm not allowed to repeat. Then she smiled. A light smile, but cold, like someone proud of a secret they're keeping. In the second session, Bella brought a gift. A doll made of paper and tape. "It's Natan, so he can get to know you better." She asked me to leave the doll in the corner of the room. "If he doesn't like you, he'll let me know," she said, still smiling. In the third session, she showed me a new drawing. It was my office, the room, the furnitures, and me. But there was something behind me. A shadow with red eyes drawn so forcefully it almost tore the page. When I asked what it was, she replied, "He said you're afraid of being alone. Just like when you were a kid." I froze. That wasn't a game. There was only one person in the world who knew what I felt in that dark basement of my parents' house. And that person, that was me. Mother's account, compiled from conversations between sessions. By the fourth session, Bella's mother arrived pale. Her dark circles were deeper than before. She sat across from me and said, her voice barely above a whisper, "There's something in our house, doctor." She explained that in the past few weeks, things had started to happen. Things that had no rational explanation. Toys appeared broken in the morning. Chairs were dragged across the bedroom floor during the night. And the strangest part, mirrors. Shattered. Always mirrors. Bella said it was because Natan didn't like to see his reflection. And whenever something like that happened, she would always explain it with the same phrase, "He's angry." The mother tried not to feed into the stories. She thought they were emotional manifestations. But then, she started hearing footsteps in the hallway at night. Whispers behind closed doors, voices that didn't belong to her daughter. Raspy, distant voices saying things like, "Leave, she's mine," or "She doesn't need anyone else." Bella started sleeping less. She'd stay up all night whispering softly to someone. One night, her mother found her awake standing in front of the closet. "Natan wants me to go with him. He said there's a place where I'll never feel alone again." From that point on, the episodes began to coincide with the sessions. The day before each appointment, the house felt heavier. Objects fell without explanation. Lights flickered. And Bella, quieter than ever, would always say the same thing. "He doesn't like coming here. He doesn't want me to tell you." Going account, sessions Nura 4 to Nura 7. Bella started to change. She still came to the sessions, always on time, always obedient. But something about her seemed disconnected. Her eyes looked darker, her voice softer, and the silence heavier with each visit. When she spoke, her sentences were filled with strange pauses, as if she was listening to instructions while talking to me. In session 5, I asked how she felt during her dreams. She didn't answer, she just drew. What appeared on the paper wasn't something a 6-year-old should be drawing. A circle of people lying on the ground as if asleep. And in the center, a figure with red eyes and a huge twisted smile. I asked if it was a nightmare. She replied, "No, that was Natan's party." In session 6, she brought a doll with no eyes. She said the doll could see better like this now. Then she stared at me for several seconds and said, like someone commenting on the weather, "You were scared of the dark. But it wasn't the dark, was it? It was what lived inside it." I froze. The sentence hit me like a bullet to the chest. That was an old trauma, buried deep. A memory I had never shared with anyone. Almost automatically, I asked, "Who told you that, Bella?" She smiled. A hollow smile. "Natan said you two have a lot in common." From that session on, something changed. Not just in Bella, but in the office itself. I began to feel a heaviness in the air before she arrived. The wall clock stopped 3 times. Always at the same minute, 3:17. The lamp flickered every time she said his name, and sometimes in the audio recordings of the sessions, a second voice could be heard, low, raspy, repeating things like, "Don't take her from me. There's a place for you here too." Final formal session. Session number 8, not audio recorded. Final report by the psychologist. Recorded in personal journal. That day's session was different. From the start, Bella wouldn't look at me. She sat in the corner, hugging her knees, staring at the tape doll she had made herself weeks earlier. I didn't ask anything. I waited. After several long minutes, she said, "He doesn't want to come here anymore. He said you're getting in the way." I stayed silent, and then I said, "I don't even know why. Then tell him he can stay with me." Bella looked up, frightened, as if I'd said something forbidden. "He's going to follow you home." I just replied, "That's okay. If it means you'll be free, it's okay." The session ended early that day. I knew what I was doing. That night I sat in silence for hours, and I realized by accepting this, I wasn't just making room for him. I was making room for everything he brought with him. Childhood fears, the basement, sleepless nights, hearing footsteps that maybe never existed. The red eyes I claimed I had imagined, Nathan. Maybe he had always been there. And now with him inside me, I'm forced to face it all again. Supplementary note. 1.5 months later, Camilla, Bella's mother, came back to see me. She said her daughter had gotten better. Out of nowhere, that she was smiling more. Playing again. Sleeping again. I don't know what you did, doctor, but thank you. I just smiled weakly. There wasn't much of me left by then. Now he lives here, in the corner of the room, behind the mirror in the office. Sometimes he whispers my name. Sometimes he just watches. But as long as he's with me, she's safe.